Hello, St. Francis Episcopal Parish and Community Center. My name is Sara Yo, and I am the Assistant Rector for Children, Youth, and Families here. And I am coming to you today on this Tuesday, December 13th, 2022. And I wanted to give you all a short message today because I know that this is a really busy time of year for all of us. And so I wanted to give you all a short message of hope and encouragement, and just one that ultimately reminds you that you're not alone. So 2 days ago, I preached a sermon here at St. Francis, which you can find on our YouTube page and on our Facebook page in the recorded live stream. And I preached about holding all kinds of feelings and truths in tension, things that contradict. We had a gospel lesson wherein Jesus contradicted himself within one sentence. And that is hard to make sense of and wrestle with. And yet sometimes it's not so hard to make sense of and wrestle with because we feel contradictions within our own lives all the time. And so I preached about and shared some of my own personal story about contradiction and making sense of things that don't make sense, especially as it relates to my mother's terminal illness that she had. She had early onset Alzheimer's when I was a teenager. And a lot of you came up to me after the service because one thing I mentioned in my sermon was the just profound strangeness of the only prayer I could muster at the end of my mom's illness, which was that she might be able to die, to pass peacefully from this life into the next one, that her body would stop, because at that point in her illness, she had no quality of life. She was a shell of a body. Her soul was already gone. And the only prayer I could muster at that point was for her body to die. And that was a profoundly difficult realization and prayer to make. And at the time, I don't even think I would have called it a prayer, but it was just my most fervent hope, was that for the ordeal to be over for her and for all of us. And quite a few of you came up to me after the service and said, I did that too when my mom or my dad or my cousin or someone in your life was ill. So many of you have that shared experience. And, it was striking to me because we are still emerging from this prolonged period of social isolation that was caused by lockdown, stay-at-home orders in the early phases of the COVID-19 pandemic. And here in the life of St. Francis, we're just beginning to regather, and the opportunities to get to know one another are just beginning. And throughout the listening campaign that's been going on the last few months, it wraps up at the end of January, so be sure to reach out or respond to requests to be listened to. A number of you have said, I don't quite feel like I know everyone, or I don't feel super connected, but that's no one's fault. We had a pandemic. And so I'm noticing these two things. One is that many of you still feel somewhat socially isolated, or maybe you would say it's more than somewhat. And for many of you, that's connected to the people at St. Francis, so that you have a longing to get to know one another more. And I certainly am excited about the opportunities that St. Francis is providing and will be providing for people to do that. And I want to reflect back to you that so many of you are experiencing similar things. You're coming to me and others at St. Francis, sharing your experiences that are similar, and so you have these commonalities with one another. In my last sermon before this past Sunday, back in November, I started my sermon by asking, who feels anxiety? Who has anxiety? And most people raised their hand. And we did an interactive activity at the indoor service that day of filling out note cards and putting them in the offering basket of the things that give you anxiety. And there were huge themes throughout them, just really, really clear themes. And so in looking through them, the themes of fear for the future, of concern for lost relationships, concern for relationships that are rocky, that are tumultuous, concern for children and family members, for those you love, concern and anxiety about death, the death of people you love, the death of communities that you love, the death of our planet. All of these things are things that many of you worry about. And then this past Sunday, many of you came to me and said, hey, I've said that prayer too. I've said that most gut-wrenching of prayers for someone to die. And so I want you all to hear so clearly that you are not alone. You are not alone in any of the anxieties that you feel. You are not alone in any of the most tender experiences in this life. There are other people here even who've experienced things like it, who can relate. I will never say that I know exactly what you're going through, because I don't. Every person has their own life and experiences that shape who they are and how they go through tough times. So I will never say that I know just what you're going through. And I hope that we won't say that to each other, because we can't ever know the full details and the full intricacies of how someone is feeling something and going through something. But more often than not, I think we can relate deeply to elements of what people are feeling. Sometimes we can even relate to the arc of the story if things are similar enough. And I just really wanted you all to hear that message in this time where we are just under 2 weeks out from Christmas Day, and people are busy with holiday parties and gift exchanges and dinners and ugly sweater parties and other get-togethers, obligations, trying to see Christmas lights and make memories and carol and whatever else it is that is part of your family's holiday traditions. Maybe you've got to keep up holiday traditions on one side of the family and another side of the family. And maybe with your blended family, there's a third side of the family to keep up with. And wrangling those schedules, work schedules, kids' school schedules, it is a hard time of year. And you are not alone. That is the message today. You are not alone in any of it at any time. If you are feeling lonely or sad, or like you want to just be heard, please send us a message. Send me a message, and I will affirm for you that you're not alone. And if you want to be connected with someone else who is feeling that way, also let me know, and I will help connect people that I know might be feeling similar things, so that you may talk to one another, send each other texts throughout the day, throughout the week. Hey, I'm thinking of you. I'm thinking of you in this thing that you're going through, and this is how I'm going through it too. Let's connect with one another and be there for one another so that we can remember that we are not alone. Take care.